to The Traveling Golfer. You've found the podcast that tells you about all the amazing places in the world you can golf, and some of them, frankly, even close to home, depending on where you are. Hi, I'm Mike. There is the golf expert and the traveling golfer himself, Claudio DeMarchi. Hi, buddy.
Hello, Mike. Good to be back.
I'm delighted to have you here. And as we all start to get back to life, golf seems to be the first thing that people are engaging in. And I understand it because you can actually have a little bit of social distance in the game.
It's safe.
Yeah.
You can do this and stay safe.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to get out there and breathe the fresh air. And by the way, it is still a social engagement. You just aren't up against each other doing it. So you can get together with your buddies. And in fact, what we're hearing is there is starting to be a little bit of golf travel happening. Before we get to that, I'll tell you this. Subscribe to this podcast, please, if you like it. Share it with a friend. And certainly visit travelinggolfer.net. And the YouTube channel, which contains this podcast, is up there as well if you'd like to follow along with any of the amazing destinations that we are visiting. And today, by the way, if you'd like to have a look at the wonderful destination that we're visiting, it is up there. Where are we going today, Claudio?
We are going to southern Indiana. Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it? But in fact, one of the most beautiful courses in North America right now, French Lick Resort, will be one of our topics of discussion today, and we'll check in with our guests from there. But first, we're hearing golf travel is starting to happen again already.
Yes, it is. It was just last week. I was on the phone with my buddy Pat Farrell down at Saddlebrook Resort in just north of Tampa, and they had just welcomed their first guests as stay-and-play packagers, a group of 16 guys who came in for the weekend. And so that was the first that I've heard of such reopening up.
That's amazing. And so I guess this is going to, because as we pointed out in a previous episode, only 4 states in the U.S. Managed to close their courses down as part of their COVID operations and emergency response. But I guess the other courses were pretty much just standing by, getting ready to go and waiting for players to arrive.
Yes, absolutely. There's more happening. And I guess if we have some good news, this is it.
Yeah.
Not only courses, a lot of courses did not close down at all, but we now have hotels opening up in North Carolina for sure. I was just on the phone the other day with someone from the Pearl in part of the Myrtle Beach area, but in North Carolina. And they too, hotels opening and stay and play is happening again. So that's really good news.
Remarkable. All right, well, here we go, golfers. We are getting back to it. And another destination today. Coming up later in the show, we're going to visit the wine cellar, as we always do. And I'm hoping that you can help me out with a little problem I'm having on the golf course over my entire golf career. We'll see if we can.
We'll try.
All right, all of that coming up. Tell us about today's guest.
Today we have Mr. Wonderful from French Lick Resort, PR man extraordinaire, Brendan Sweeney. He's just a great guy. I've been on many trips with him and been to French Lick as his guest, and you're just going to find out for yourself. Now, from a golf standpoint, he's just an average guy. He might be better than you, Mike, but...
Well, I have a feeling if he's golfed more than twice this season, he's probably better than me. Let's just be honest about that. Let me ask you this. That area, though, is it you got to go golf, there's nothing else there? Or is this one of these adventures that you can have as a travel vacation?
It's one of those places that could be considered a bucket list. This Pete Dye golf course they have there is unbelievable. When they laid out the budget for building the golf course, there was no budget.
Wow.
It's
do it, no matter what it takes.
Just do it. It's a self-contained destination, you could say. It's got two hotels that are just extraordinary. One of them is probably one of the neatest in the world I've ever been in. As soon as you walk in, it's the West Baden Hotel at French Lick. And the building itself was the largest dome structure until they built the Astrodome. and it was built in the early 1900s. So
Fascinating.
go figure.
Yeah. All right. Let's find out more as we make our way to French Lick. Brendan Sweeney, all the way from where are we actually reaching out to you today? Actually,
I'm actually on the southern border of the French Lick Resort in Orlando, Florida.
They've stretched the border, have they?
Yeah, I'm quarantined in paradise.
Yeah, well, that can happen to the worst of us, that's for sure. As we this morning looked out and saw snow still coming down in our spring here in Canada.
Oh my! Well, God bless the Canucks.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. We
Yes.
appreciate that.
We really do
appreciate you.
we believe it's time for climate change, but we want some of the warmer climate now.
It comes with all this other bad stuff, though, Claudio. You know, it's unfortunate. But as we're finding out here, as we are getting to what seems to be the end of social isolating and trying to keep away from one another, golf is going to be one of the first things that comes back here in Canada. And as we start to look south of the border, there's some great places for us to go and golf and have a wonderful vacation without really even getting on a plane to get out of Canada here in Ontario. This is one of the destinations that we're talking about.
Absolutely. French Lick Resort and the whole state of Indiana has some absolutely fantastic golf that so many people aren't even aware of. And, you know, Brendan and the French Lick Resort are on the southern end of Indiana. And from north to south, there is what they call the Pete Dye Golf Trail, which I would put up against any golf trail that I've ever stepped foot on as quality, and you can't beat some of the prices in some of the, center parts of the state.
Tell us a little bit about the state on the whole for golf, Brendan.
Well, hey, thanks guys for having me on. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate what you guys do, not only for the golf community, but just at this point in time, as a sanity thing to get golf back on the books. My goodness, this is absolutely insane. The French Lick Resort, we've been around since, believe it or not, we're celebrating our 175th anniversary, around since 1845. Golf actually planted its stakes in French Lick back in 1898 when they were building the West Baden Springs Hotel, and then officially hit the first ball there in 1901. So golf's been around pretty much a long time there, and we've been having a hoot doing it. So yeah, as far as the Pete Dye Golf Trail is concerned, Pete and his wife Alice resided in Indiana for years. Recently, Pete and Alice passed away last year. They were a great loss. They're just an absolute fabulous couple to be around. Learned a lot from them. But we took some of Pete's finest courses and worked with the state of Indiana to come up with the Pete Dye Golf Trail. So we have 9 different golf courses that stretch from northern Indiana, just south of Culver, which is just south of South Bend, Indiana. So right off I-80, 94 right there that goes between Chicago and Detroit. And then snakes its way down I-65 through Lafayette, through Indianapolis, through the really cool golf course in the center of the Indianapolis 500 called the Brickyard Crossing. And then you head about 2 hours south, you wind up in French Lick, Indiana, where we have Pete's second to last Indiana golf course that he put in. That was its public track. So we have the Pete Dye Golf Course, which we opened up in 2009. And what we've done with that is Pete stretched it back to 8,102 yards. So it's a big whopper of a course. But it ties in with the rest of the resort that we have down there, which we have an additional 27 holes with the 1907 Tom Bendelow course and the 1917 Donald Ross golf course, along with 2 other hotels and a casino. So we're doing all right.
Wow.
It's been a unique time, but we're managing to hedge our way through it. So
yeah, as we get through this seems like a really all-in-one destination to go and just get away, take a breath after we've all been locked up for so long, and make that transition to I can leave my house again and still go and see and do things while you're sort of kept into one facility by the sounds of it.
Oh, yeah. That facility has so much to offer. I think, Brendan, you did take me over to the stables. So we saw
Yeah.
that we do have some horsies over there. Then I think we found our way into a bowling alley that was
Yeah, what could be one of the oldest bowling alleys in the United States. It goes back to 1901.
Oh my
So
God,
I'm not
that's
sure
cool.
if there's too many other bowling. There's a 6-lane bowling alley.
I think you were
tied in-
you were the champ that year, weren't you?
No, I think it was your first wife.
I see how this goes when you guys get together. But okay, so
We
now
don't remember how things end when we get together a lot of times.
I'm glad that you guys managed to keep each other's numbers somehow. You must have exchanged those early in the friendship.
Exactly.
No, it's all speed dial now.
Oh, that's so funny. But yeah, no, this really does sound like sort of an ideal scenario. Now, let's talk about the course itself as far as what kind of challenge. There's the U golfer, Claudio, and then there's the me duffer, Claudio. And so does it have something for kind of midway for both of us?
Well, golf is where you want it to be. I mean, as Brendan said, the course stretches back to over 8,000 yards, but certainly nobody has to play it from back there.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't play it from back there because I think one of the par threes, if correct me, Brendan, but it could be like 300 yards. Is that the 16th?
No.
hole?
It's 301 yards.
Oh, sorry.
So par 3, 16th hole with water on the right.
Well, water almost all the way. Never mind to the just to the right. It's
Well, actually, when you're teeing up from back at 301 yards, it's halfway up the fairway.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
It could be the only par 3 with a 150-yard fairway
That's incredible.
yeah.
and a bunker in the middle. So
Yeah.
it's great. But yeah, I mean, we've had a great opportunity in the past decade or so, going back to 2010 with the PGA of America's Professional Club Championship, and then from there we went on to host the 2015 Senior PGA Championship, which Colin Montgomery won.
Yes.
And you look at the golf course, and that was really our big coming out party. The first day, the practice rounds were gorgeous. It was probably, 60, 65 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. And then a front came through and it dropped down to about 45 and it was raining the next day. And out of the 138 professionals that teed it up that day, 47 of them shot over 80. So we were really having a good time chuckling up at that.
Well,
Guys like Mark Calcavecchia and a few others were just absolutely livid about the golf course. Pete was just digging it, man. He goes, "See, I told you so." So he was just having a blast doing it. And the pros came through. They came through in great style. And as I mentioned before, in 2010 we had the PNC, the Professionals National Championships here down in the States, and the head coach of the University of Illinois, his name's Mike Small. He used to play on tour back in the 80s and 90s. And Mike is the head coach at the University of Illinois. See my shirt right there.
There you go.
And we hosted the Big Ten championships in 12, 13, and 14. And his Illini won in 12 and 13. The University of Minnesota won in 14. But he took that to heart. And really some great players came out of that. I mean, if you look at the tour right now, Thomas Peters was on that team. Thomas Dietrich, two guys from Belgium. Charlie Danielson, he was an Illini guy. Eric Von Ruten played for University of Minnesota. So we had a good run with the Big Ten championships. And then we moved forward to other championships we've hosted through at the Pete Dye Golf Course. The USGA men's state team championships. We hosted a couple Indiana Opens. And then probably about 7 years ago, we started with the LPGA Legends. So we had a three-year run with the Legends. And then we went to the LPGA and said, let's make this into a major championship for the ladies. So what we did with the ladies was made that into their first ever senior women's championship. So we're the host site of the senior LPGA championship. So we look at the 8102 as a yardage marker as far as it plays back, but we also have 6 additional tee boxes. So the ladies who are 45 and above playing this major championship, what they're doing is they're playing from about 5,400 yards. So it really tees, the Pete Dye course really is a nice addition to any really caliber of golfer. But we try to, as a resort, we don't want to, stripe the skin off your back every time you come out. We want you to have a good time. So You can play it as far as you want, or as short as you want.
Yeah, I actually got to go to the senior LPGA media event and got to meet Michelle McCann, the lady with the hat, one of my favorites. And
yeah, she's a great lady.
Jan Stevenson was there, as well as our own Lori Kane from Canada.
Lori Kane actually was a past champion of the Legends, so she won the first Sonnet we had back in the day. Probably about I think it was 2014.
Wow. Yeah. And
from Prince Edward Island, right?
That's it. That's it. And when you do get a little weather there, the wind is always a factor, as I recall from being at one of the highest peaks in the state, I think.
We're at a whopping 982 feet above sea level, but you have to remember, you think of the state of Indiana, and the majority of the state is flat. So when the glaciers came down back in the Stone Age, they pushed all that stuff down from Canada, and it stopped about 35 miles north of us and left all the deposits just south of us. So it's all rocky and hilly and whatnot. So yeah, the Pete Dye Golf Course sits on top of Mount Erie, which is 982 feet above sea level, and which is the second highest point in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing layout. It's absolutely fantastic.
And everything all in one place. As you make your way through the state, you end up where we're headed today in the wine cellar. You're not in wine country, you're in bourbon country by the time you start to make your way down there.
We are in bourbon country for sure. And that's where I was introduced to bourbon. And it's all Brendan's fault.
Thanks, Brendan. We appreciate that.
Well, just don't get him off it.
As a matter of fact, in this issue of the Traveling Golfer, we have just put in from Lynx Magazine their story, which is called the Bourbon Golf Trail. And so in that, I put my little intro on how I became, I'm not going to say addicted, but we could say, as I have many bottles of bourbon around my house now, and it's all because of Woodford Reserve. When you get off the golf course and you play the Pete Dye course, they give you a nice little steel gift box, and within the gift box is a bottle of bourbon, 4 shot glasses, and 4 cigars.
That's class.
And,
it's a really cool amenity. It's the price tag of the Pete Dye Golf Course isn't like your normal Muni track. So what we try to do is to enhance that experience. By the time you pull in the gate, from when our staff takes your bags, we make you feel like a member basically. And then when you come off the course, you're sitting on top of this beautiful vista. So you have scenery you can see within 40, 50 miles out. Wow. You're overlooking the beautiful Hoosier National Forest. The sun's going down. Come out with a bottle of bourbon and 4 stogies, and you guys are just sitting back, kicking back, BSing about the day, saying, wow, this is pretty cool. So what we try to do is make that experience as intimate as possible. If you look at what people do for rounds per year, what we've done is if we've purposely held back the amount of rounds that we put on the Pete Dye Golf Course. Number one is to keep the playing conditions pristine. And number 2 is to make your experience unlike any other. I mean, it's not like when you go to, I don't want to slam any other resorts, but, if you're at tee times at every 8 to 12 minutes, we're at every 15 to 18 minutes if need be. I mean, you could go out, play your 9 holes, have a 2-hour lunch, go out, finish it up. Or, what we do with our packages, it's unlimited golf. So if you want to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and go balls out, play 2 hours and 15 minutes, grab a snack, keep on going again. I think our record is 108 holes that somebody shot in one day. So, yeah, just as long as you, at the Pete Dye Golf Course, as long as you have your caddy, you don't beat them up too bad, and you keep on going with you. So that's it.
Brendan and I are easy on our caddies. 1 round is enough, and then we go to the bar.
You've got other destinations in mind nearby.
That's right. But we have more than one golf course at the Pete over at French Lick. We have a very nice Donald Ross course. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that one, Brendan, and maybe don't tell them about those 3 greens that I don't like.
There you go. Well, back in the day, the Tom Taggart was the proprietor of the hotel and the property back in the 1910s to the Depression in 1929. So the Taggart Mansion is where the Pete Dye Mansion is. There's a lot of history behind that. Actually, back in 1931, he was the head of the Democratic National Party for the United States of America. And what he did is he held the National Democratic Convention down there. And a fellow by the name of Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared his run for presidency at the Pitti Mansion.
Oh, cool.
So Taggart was a pretty powerful guy, and he had a lot of cash back in the day. So what he did back in 1914, he jumped on a train. French Lick was a railroad town, and he wound up down in Pinehurst, North Carolina. And he went walking down the street and went rapping on a door, and who else but Donald Ross opened up that door. So he was very convincing and brought Donald Ross back with him. And what they did is they got off the train, they went to the hotel, he wined and dined them. Next day, they jumped on a horseback and they just started riding the countryside. And when it came to the site where the hill course is what it was called, now it's the Donald Ross Golf Course, they pointed out, he goes, I could do it here. So in 1917, the Donald Ross course opened. Really cool thing about all the Donald Ross courses, not all of them, but the majority of them, if you look at the time they were built and you look at the proximity of where they are located to railroad tracks, Ross would have his plans and his team and the mules and the pickaxes, and they would just get off and start carving a course. So French Lick being a railroad town, that was one of the natural sites for it. So we opened up the Ross course in 1917. And then in 1924, we were the host site of the PGA Championship where Walter Hagen won it. And in honor of Walter Hagen, we have Hagen's Restaurant, which is a pro shop and a really classy, nice restaurant that we have there. So,
nice.
Yeah, we have a really great time. And so there's a ton of history, not only in golf, but just in politics and in sports. And, we haven't mentioned Larry Bird being from there. We haven't mentioned, probably one of the coolest trivia facts of ever is that tomato juice was invented in French Lick, Indiana, back in 1914. So you can't have a Bloody Mary without thinking of French Lick, Indiana.
Not from this point on, no.
No,
Yes.
Hell no.
And we
Mike, you got to come down. You got to experience it, my man. You'll love it.
I have to get down there. This sounds like a really wonderful experience. Tell me where people can find out more.
Well, obviously the website is number one, and it's FrenchLick.com. We have social media, that whole 9 yards. But I tell you what, if you really want, if you go to our website, if you go to the Facebook page, and if you reach out to someone that's been there, our biggest sign of flattery is when people start talking about us. And I know Claudio, he's been a huge fan of the French Lick Resort, not only French Lick, but the state of Indiana, Midwestern golf in itself. And as we get through this pandemic, this coronavirus, as we get back up to speed, there's going to be a lot of things that will change. And I think that one of them is going to be a lot of air travel is going to be cut down for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And, if you're looking, if you're coming from Toronto, no matter if you come through Windsor or if you cut around the other side, we're probably 6 hours from Cleveland and give or take 5.5, 6 from Detroit. So 5 hours from Chicago. And if you're looking at a map, just look at Louisville, Kentucky, and just go a little bit northwest of there. We're about an hour and 10 minutes from the Louisville airport. So it's a great joint.
Is that where people mainly fly into during a time of flying? Right in. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we also have an airport too. So if any of your listeners have access to private aircraft, you come down, we'll pick you up, we'll drive you around the whole place. And that's the beauty about having the resort. It's very inclusive. So if you do happen to drive down, you just leave your car in the parking lot and we'll drive you. We have shuttles, we have trams, we have trolleys that run between the properties. We now have 3 hotels. We have over 800 rooms. We have a casino. We have an event center. We have a stable. We got some just really fine dining restaurants and some really great casual restaurants. But once you get to the resort, you walk around the town. And once you walk around the town, there's some really just cool places. You mentioned the bourbon being in Louisville. We now have the French Lick Winery, which is right across the street, which has just a fabulous Italian restaurant, but they make their own wine. And last year they started to develop their own spirits. So now they have 9 different types of spirits. So we now have a French Lick bourbon. We now have a French Lick vodka, gin, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, it's great.
That's
and,
cool.
I brought some French Lick vodka home. My wife's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Tastes like Tito's." And she's like, "No, it doesn't." She hit it and she goes, "It does." So it's good.
Good quality.
So
yeah.
French Lick actually is a little town, but I think everybody who lives in town works at the resort.
Right.
Well,
Is that fair
in
to
the
say?
town, Yeah, well, in a town of 2,500 residents, between West Baden and French Lick, we call it the Valley. We employ 1,700 people.
Okay.
So, in times like this, it's been hard. We had to lay off a lot of people just to get by, but we'll be coming back strong. I mean, we've been around for 175 years, and we're going to be around for 175 years more. So,
well, the good news, Brendan, is that in the last 10 days, I've spoken to our friend Pat Farrell down in Saddlebrook, and they got their first stay and play packagers a week ago Friday, and yesterday, talking to someone in North Carolina, hotels have started to open up, and they too have received some stay and play. So that's a good sign. Where are you guys as far as that happening?
Well, obviously the casino is the dog that wags the tail, and without gaming, and we don't know when gaming's going to come back. We're hoping early June, late May, but we don't know yet. We had to wait for the governor to decide, what's right. And believe me, when this whole thing started, from the top all the way down, our number one priority was to protect our people, and number two is their families and everybody else, and the assets being 200-plus-year-old hotels. Right. So we have a staff on just maintaining. Towards the end of this month, I believe the 20th, give or take a couple of days, we're going to open up a select amount of rooms. Our golf courses have been open. We have not closed down golf. We've made some adjustments to the golf courses. We've obviously put the foam in the bottom of the cups, so you don't have to bend over and touch a flagstick or whatnot. We're doing single riding on the golf carts, and we go through a very stringent sanitizing after each round of the golf carts. We have a very, very intense cleaning that goes on with that. We're only allowing 2 people in the pro shop at once. They have to maintain their distances. Our staff is wearing masks and gloves, and it really is. It's really freakish, man. I never would have thought this would happen in our lifetimes. No. That we have to go through these things, but you know what? We're doing what we're doing to get through it. And if you look at Illinois, if you look at Wisconsin, if you look at Michigan, if you look at Minnesota, they're doing twosomes, walking only with 15-minute tee times in between. You could get 8 people on a course in an hour. It's crazy.
It's so tough.
But
at least it's continuing on. You know what I mean? Like the spirit of these courses, even if they can't really maintain the way that they're doing it at the moment, they're maintaining that they're doing it, and I think that that's really important.
Yeah, and our academy's open. Anthony Bradley's one of our head instructors. He's doing online lessons, and we're selling a lot of stuff through our website. We're a Callaway distributor, and we've been selling a boatload of clubs and having fun doing that. So we're trying to make the best of it. I know in some of those states I just mentioned that they're instructors that the ranges are closed, and so they can't give lessons. So we have golf pros from Illinois and Wisconsin and in Michigan that, hey, can we bring some guys down? As of now, as I mentioned before, our hotels are not open, but there's a Best Western and a Comfort Suites in town that is open. So these guys come down and they're staying there, and they're coming over, they're beating on a range, and they're given private instructions to their pupils using our facilities, which we have absolutely no problem doing.
That's awesome.
Well, it's cool to hear you guys proceeding. You know what I mean? That is a good thing, that you're doing the best that you can in this scenario.
Yeah,
that's all we got. We're in the golf business. The hardest thing is, we're all in the hospitality business, and we're all people persons. And I think the hardest thing about the last couple of months is just the solitude of not giving somebody a hug or a high five or even shaking somebody's hand. I mean, it's driving me nuts. So.
Seeing Claudio today, our first instinct was to have a good handshake, right? And it was just like, oh. So it is weird. But we are getting back to it. We're headed in that direction. And for that reason, as you're starting to venture out in your mind what you're going to do with your summer, how you're going to spend some time, maybe just get in the car. Maybe it's time to head to Indiana and get your golf online with a small vacation at a very nice destination.
Absolutely, because people are going to drive on vacations for the next little while.
I think so.
But while they're driving there, you touched on it, Brendan, Brickyard Crossing up in Indianapolis.
Very cool experience.
I just want to say that along with playing the Pete Dye course are two what you could consider bucket list opportunities that shouldn't be missed. After all,
I got another one for you. I got 3 more for you. Up in West Lafayette, where Purdue University is the Camping course, and they just opened another course there too. Another
awesome.
2 more Pete Dye, and then at the University of Indiana, they're just like literally this month. The IU golf course, Steve Spire's course, is opening up, and I saw it when they were building it, and it looked awesome. So I'm looking forward to get up there and playing that too. So I'm definitely going to be up there this summer. I can't know when, but I will be there, and my family is really excited about me leaving. So
well, hopefully I'll come and join you.
I'll meet you halfway, man. I'm in Florida, you're in Toronto, and that's halfway.
That is. Got it.
Well, listen, Brendan, thanks for joining us. Don't forget, we'll recommend check out French Lick Resort, and you'll find it in Indiana, described on the Traveling Golfer as one of a kind. You take care and stay out of your family's hair, okay, Brendan?
Yeah, I still have it. And if your listeners want to get a hold of me, please just reach out. It's bsweeney@frenchlick.com. It's not that hard. Be more than happy to direct them in any way, shape, or form. Even if they don't want to come to Indiana, if they have any questions about any golfing in the Midwest, we're all family. We're all in this together. I can direct them in any direction they want to go to. Just be safe and hug your family while you still can, right? So enjoy, guys, and really appreciate the support. Claudio, good seeing you on this Zoom, and Mike, I caught part of your hand there.
Likewise, and for anybody.
Oh, there you go. How you doing, pal?
For anybody who wants to be misdirected, Brendan can take care of that too.
Absolutely. I'm a master at getting you off track, Claudio. It's not that hard.
Thanks so much, Brendan. We'll catch up with you a couple episodes down the road, and wishing you guys a wonderful trip back to the world of reality and golf.
Cheers, boys. Hit them straight, okay?
You betcha, bud. Take care.
You do know some good guys out there. You weren't just saying that when you started this podcast. You were like,
I could hear you.
I got some great guests. Well, you're right. You've had great guests so far, man.
Well, I told you.
Okay, look, why don't we do this?
Did we lose him?
No, yeah, we lost him. Why don't we do this? Normally, we head into the wine cellar, but as we got talking here, I started to really get the impression that wine wasn't on your mind when you were down in Indiana. You were too close to bourbon country. And it seems to be that's where you developed a taste for bourbon. Let's talk about that today in the wine cellar.
Well, it started off as being on wine, but I'm a weak man and I'm easily distracted. And when somebody put this Woodford Reserve bourbon in front of me, I'm going, oh my gosh. And I immediately thought of Jack Daniels, which I didn't really care for way back in the day, but I have had my fair share of Canadian whiskey, Crown Royal, and enjoy that. But when I had this Woodford Reserve, I'm going, oh my, this is really nice.
What was different about it than other bourbons you tried?
Well, that was probably the first bourbon I tried.
Oh, you hadn't really tried Jack Daniels or anything previous?
I had tried it, but it didn't do anything for me that I went out and bought a bottle or something like that.
Oh, what did this do for you, this one?
Oh, this was much smoother. You could just sense the quality of this drink. It reminded me of a Cavassier or, something in the lines of a really nice product that you could say, I could enjoy this. And then I discovered that, this was their select, which is their basic.
Yeah.
And then I found double oak.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is double oak? What cut that apart?
It's just that much better. Smoother.
I don't think of bourbon as being smooth. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that every bourbon I ever tried was like, it pulled the air out of you.
No. This is just very nice. Nice one big ice cube, load it up and just sip it.
One of those big ball style ice cubes.
Balls or squares, whatever.
Yeah, people love those now, I've noticed.
I love them.
We have them at home too. My kids fight over them when they're left in the ice cube tray. Everybody likes a fancy cocktail. So let me ask you this: what lends that area to bourbon? Is there is it the kind of farming that's done in the area, the kind of wheat, the kind of barley? What is it that makes that area specifically good for bourbon?
Well, I'm not really sure. I know that there's a big corn element that goes into bourbon, and I mean it's farm country, so
That's
there's
farm country.
probably a lot of corn. But bourbon is basically, it's similar to Canadian whiskey, just different. It's the American version, and they do whatever they do to it. But there is the barley and there is the wheat and all of that kind of stuff. But then you can get into the fancier bourbons with where they have the single barrel, which is something that Blanton's is quite noted for. They would be, you might almost consider them the craft bourbon.
Okay.
Similar to craft beer, but
And what does single
way
barrel mean?
above.
That each barrel has its own sort of signature nuance to it?
Well, not when you get a bottle of Blanton's, which is not easy to come by in Canada. They do have it at the LCBO on occasion, but I've only seen it once, bought it once. It has a little horsey on the top.
Okay.
And, and apparently you can collect these horsies, but even when you go to the duty frees and you're in the U.S., rarely can you find it. So it's tough. But every bottle has a barrel identification on it, and I guess there's no two barrels that are exactly alike.
I've heard this with regard to other liquors and spirits out there, that if you get a single barrel, you could actually win the lottery on one of these, because if I guess a connoisseur out there determines that barrel is the best of its kind in that season or that year on that lot number, it actually becomes incredibly valuable on the market.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I was introduced to Blanton's, and just so happened to be in Indianapolis. Now here we are back in Indiana,
There
just
you
a
are.
different part, and in a very nice steakhouse where I was introduced to Blanton's, and that's where I said, I got to get some of this stuff. And now I only have an empty bottle left.
Well, I'm sorry.
But I'm not getting rid of it.
Because the horsey on top.
The horsey on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an animal lover, so...
And it's not that you like to drink, it's that you're collecting horsies, for goodness sake. So if anybody would like to send
I'm
a
doing...
bottle to our good friend.
Remember, I'm doing quality assurance.
Right. He's not, and by the way, for all intents and purposes, this was a big thing to you. You love to pair the wines and the food and the area and stuff like that. But when we started talking about this podcast in general, you were like, look, when we get down to French Lick, I'm going to talk about the top of the bourbon run, and it's my drink, and that's where it began. So I'll recommend, okay, what are the brands again? Blanton's?
Woodford Reserve is, I guess, my go-to because it is readily available.
Yep.
And but if I ever see another bottle of Blanton's, I will be grabbing that as well. Now, I have tried Maker's Mark and Knob Creek, and there's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah.
But those are my go-to.
So when you make your way down to French Lick, make sure to make some time and a later tea time the next day to sample some of the bourbon. Thanks for sampling the podcast today. We talked about French Lick Resort in Indiana. Be sure to check them out. Be sure to check out thetravelinggolfer.net and sign up for the newsletter there. And this podcast, subscribe to it and share it with a friend. It's everywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks, Claudio.
Thank you.